I'm Leroy Bridges with Adara. We're sponsoring this session today, the 3 T's, new trends, tools, and tactics in digital marketing. Earlier it was shared that last year's attendance wanted to hear more on the digital marketing front, media buying. I was excited to hear that. Obviously this session is going to be perfect for that. Prior to my time at Adara, I've been at Adara for about 16 months. I spent 9+ years at Visit St. Pete Clearwater in Florida on the DMO side, VP of Marketing and Research. So I know the shoes and the seat that many of you are sitting in. Excited about, again, the marketing piece. Adara sits squarely at the intersection of marketing and research. One of our secret sauces is access to travel intent data. A lot of companies have access to booking data, which obviously shows past behavior. We actually have access to proprietary first-party data from Marriott, Kayak, United, a whole host of travel and tourism brands that allows you to tap into visitors as they're actively searching for a destination before they've actually made that decision. So myself and Daniel Horsch are here on behalf of Adara. If you would love to chat, reach out to us. If not, that's okay too. But with that, I'll turn it over to Jeremy Sage. He is the Director of Tourism and Visitor Research at RRC, and the panel. Take it away.
Great, thank you all very much for being here. Thanks for the introduction. This is a really exciting panel, I think. I think an opportunity to really hopefully get back to the why. Someone asked earlier this morning, I have all this information, but why? What is that data telling me? What can I do with it, and how can I make it better? I think our industry has evolved over the last several decades and really has sped up a lot in the last several years. While we've been away-ish with COVID, opportunities have kept on rising. And we'll see some of those new things that have just kind of come out in the last few weeks, really, even too, with some AI information that's coming out there. So what do we do with that? How can we make use of that pieces of information and technology that are coming out? And that's kind of where we're here right now, is to think about those three T's, those new trends, those tools, and those tactics. And we've got 3 great panelists up here to talk to you about that, talk to you about the evolution and the change of this digital landscape that's here. And what are those platforms we can use to really dig into those whys much deeper than we've ever been able to before. But also it can be a little bit dangerous, right? How can we do that wisely and accurately and with the best intentions and best opportunities that are there? So that's what we'll get to with these 3 discussions here coming up. I think the way we'll organize this is each of them will take about 10 minutes or so to give their pitch, and then we'll have a discussion, hopefully a nice open discussion with you all, continuing on what these initial thoughts are and discussions that we can then take out to the reception later and the rest of this meeting throughout the week. So let me introduce to you briefly who we have, and then they'll do a bit more of their own introductions as well. So we have here to my immediate left, I have Shawn Johnson with Google, the head of industry travel. In the middle, we have Florian Hermann, the CEO of Hermann Global. And then all the way over there on the far left-hand side, we have Paul McLeod from Simpleview, the director of their analytics. And so with that, before we get into the actual discussions, I want to share a little video for you all. Take about 2 minutes to have a little insights, and then Shawn will continue talking to us.
Even though it's a risk and I don't know what's on the other side, I'm going to make a bet on myself.
I guess I'm kind of looking at this as a sort of rebirth opportunity.
I just quit my job and flew to Scotland with no money or plans or friends.
This is day 1 of me exercising every day.
I've really gone and done it now. It's a bonus farm. Turned in my 2-week notice. I just took the leap.
Yeah, I'm really liking how my hair's been going.
I feel like we're on the verge of a renaissance.
They say to do what you love, and I love to dance.
Oh my God! I'm proud of you!
I can't imagine a more beautiful thing.
Having any fun yet?
Carnival is back. Rio is back.
This is dedicated to the disabled community. This is our moment.
I wanted other women and other people of color to know it is possible.
There is no stopping her! That's a world record!
When I was a little girl, all I wanted to see was me in the media.
Change has become a constant.
The way we embrace it defines our future.
I've never seen this kind of courage. They're fighting with all they have.
The word freedom right now means a lot for us.
This could be the beginning of a new era.
You know, I call it evolution. This is what believing looks like. And don't you ever, ever give up on you.
The video doesn't play again. All right, good. For some reason, I always get like a little emotional watching the year in review videos. Don't go back and watch 2020. It's like, it's a rough 2 minutes. I would recommend it. Again, my name is Shawn. I'm based out of Chicago. I work with large advertisers, suppliers, OTAs, you name it, helping them use Google to promote travel. And I'll kind of get in a little bit today. Not too much retrospective because Adam did a really good job of summarizing half my slides. I'm pretty excited. We have coalescence here. Just before we submitted these on Friday, Google Legal called and said you have to take all the numbers and lines out. So what was beautiful numbers before are now green arrows, but you get the point. Everything was really, really good in 2022. For the most part, I think this is probably the year, 2023, where we can stop doing the versus 2019 comparisons. I think a lot of you know what I'm talking about. Like it's all 2020 was versus 2019, 2021 was versus 2019. 2022, really, with the exception of cruises was the one industry where maybe around mid-years where we finally saw query demand and search behavior exceed 2019 levels. So they might have another 6 months or 12 months to go in terms of comparisons, some international destinations, et cetera. But for the most part, it was a really strong recovery in 2022, which kind of leads us to what's next. 2021 was the year of recovery. We'll call 2022 the year of acceleration. And now we'll call 2023 the year of agility because of a lot of things that are already brought up. But I was going to play the game good news, bad news. But Adam and John did a really good job earlier summarizing. Good news is that savings rates were at an all-time high. That's not the case anymore. Good news, credit card debt was at its lowest all-time moments. Now we're at a per capita basis near one of its highest. On top of that, inflation was surging. So not only do we have less money to spend, but it costs more to spend it to go where we want to go. And then I'll call this third bucket the ongoing uncertainty bucket. You can throw COVID in there, you can throw war, you can throw supply chain, whatever you like. But certainly a lot of reason for optimism based on the last several years of travel interest, but looking at some of these factors, wondering how are consumers going to react to this? Are we going to see the same acceleration in travel interest that we saw over the past 2 years? I think the answer is yes, but I'll get there in a second. So we asked customers, we did a Google consumer survey, said, hey, with everything that's going on, is this going to impact your travel habits over the next 6 months? 60% of people said yes. Now, I worked at Nielsen for a decade before I came here in market research, and the one thing that I know about Nielsen, about market research is that everybody lies, but it's consistent. We call it overstatement, not lying. So people sometimes say, a great question earlier about kind of the mental state of if you talk yourself into a recession or you talk yourself into worrying. We certainly see that in market research too. Like, yeah, I think I need to be concerned. But we kind of drill deeper in this 60%. So like, well, what are you going to change about it? And it wasn't, I'm not going to travel anymore. It's, well, I'm going to do some more research. I'm going to think about costs. Maybe I'll trade down. And that was the really big change. And the good news is I don't have to rely just on market research. I have billions of people searching every day. And that's real-time research telling me actually what they're feeling. So this is nice, so we can kind of compare what's actually happening in terms of consumer behavior through search. 2021, there was a lot of searching for hotels. So when I say that we had a 300% year-over-year growth in searching for budget hotels, that is a massive amount in terms of scale. That is a seismic change in terms of behavior. People searching for budget hotels in this location, day trips from, cheapest countries to visit. So it isn't that people didn't want to travel anymore or don't want to travel anymore, but they're thinking about it longer. Ultimately, they may pay that higher price and book the original vacation they want, but there is a lot more research going on. I think that, again, these are massive numbers in terms of a relative, just an absolute basis. It reminds me of the acceleration of mobile in the late 2017, 2018, 2019 range, where all of a sudden, near me searches, those types of clearly I'm using a different device now and I'm searching differently. We're seeing that in travel. That doesn't mean they're going to go for the cheapest option, doesn't mean they're looking for deals and promotions per se, but they're going to do their fair research. So we did a study 3 or 4 years ago and released in 2019. It was called the Path to Purchase Summary. We said, here are all the digital touch points and offline touch points that a booker has as they think about a vacation they want to take. Does anybody want to guess the average number of touch points from, I think I might want to go to Houston for the weekend, to actually booking? 25 plus, and it was growing on a monthly basis. And we showed this great example. I think it was somebody who booked, it was 112 touch points. And of course, it's not this linear line either. It's this windy road of, okay, where do I want to go? How would I fly there? Something about cats. Maybe a video about that. It's this non-linear path in terms of searching where you want to go. But there's a lot of research. That was 2019. So we have not done that study again. We should, because I imagine it is even more escalated. For those who are deep into Google Analytics and other analytics tools, like Paul, maybe you'll have some insight for us later, but you can see it, and I'm doing the same thing. We are planning a trip to Disney World this summer. If I look at the price of individual hotels versus Airbnbs, flights versus driving, it'd be embarrassing how many touch points I've already hit. It's clearly over 100. But what we noticed, so we saw this data, we saw the query behavior changing. We said, let's actually run a broad-scale consumer survey. We did this with Kantar. I want to say somewhere in the neighborhood of 20,000 plus. US, Western Europe, I think there was an APAC country in there, traveling international, traveling domestically. And we noticed 4 key themes. This is an hour-long presentation in one slide. There's 4 key themes, and if you want the whole presentation, talk to me afterwards. Number 1 was a fair value exchange. So this isn't, again, it isn't about cost or the price, but the perceived value is fundamentally important now to traveler spending. We all know that the ADRs for hotels are an all-time high, the cost per day for a car rental, whatever it might be. If I'm going to be paying that much to rent a car or that much the hotel, I want to make sure that I'm getting the value back that I was promised. What did you tell me you were going to do, and did you deliver on that? So that's number 1. Number 2 was we saw a pretty strong theme of looking for effortless experiences. So yes, nonstop flights versus one-ways. Something easier, if I fly to Cancun, do you have that transfer set up where you could take me straight to the hotel? Do I have to even book that? Do I have to worry about those pieces? If I'm staying at a hotel, is everything I need to know on the app, including the room number in case I forget it? In some places, the actual key is the phone. What can we do to make the consumer experience frictionless? And that's more and more important as we move forward. The focus on trust versus loyalty is an interesting one, because there's lots of loyalty studies out there saying how important it is to be loyal, et cetera. What we're finding is trust is even more important than loyalty, especially for younger consumers. So let me give you an example. My coworker booked a weekend trip to Michigan, because we're based out of Chicago, just to be somewhere else. We'll go to a hotel, we had free breakfast, the kids will swim in the pool. They get there, the pool was closed. That is a fundamental trust loss, because it wasn't on their website. They didn't say the pool was closed, but it was closed for renovations, and it had been for months. Those are the types of things that happened a lot during COVID and kind of changed the way the travelers are thinking about their experience. If I go to Google My Business, if I call you, is everything up to date? Are these the actual hours? Are you open? If I go to this particular location, are things still happening there? Are they not happening? We notice that changing a lot. I won't bring up Southwest Airlines, but if you have an experience where your flight is canceled, you think twice before you fly with them again or rent a car with them again. If you really needed a minivan at Disney World and they gave you a compact. The last one is my favorite title, Inconsistent Views on Sustainability. It came up a lot, and it's really important to some people, it's somewhat important to some people, and it's not important at all to others. But it's too large to ignore in terms of the ongoing trend, increasing queries, et cetera, people focusing on sustainability. So if I were a DMO, if I were a supplier, I'd be thinking about what's my sustainability message. It doesn't have to be great, but some travelers really, really care about that. And how would I message that if I were queried directly about it? Obviously, I'm from Google, so I'm biased. I would say digital is more important than ever to actually reach customers and talk to them about these pieces. And I know that we'll kind of get into tactics and tools when we're talking on the stage, so I won't go into it. But this idea of really, the most important thing when people ask me, what should I do today? It is wrangle in all of your first-party data. anything you know about who visits your destination, who visits your hotel, who rents your car, who flies on your planes, understand them better. Pair that with maybe Google first-party data. We'd love to work with you. We have 9 properties of over 1 billion users every 30 days. Photos, Gmail, Chrome, I can't think of all. A lot of first-party data there that we can combine to say, like, who is my ideal consumer? And then using advanced audience strategies and tracking to find more people who are just like that. The other piece would be to lean in and to embrace automation across all your tactics where you can do so. Obviously, from a Google search perspective, I'm fairly biased there as well, but this idea of still 1 out of every 6 Google queries at any point in time is a query we've never seen before. Now, the punctuation or spelling could be wrong, but a lot of it is driven by, now I'm on my phone and Florian has like, tell me about that place in Houston that has a really great steak. It's Taste of Texas. It's not too far down from here. Because the queries are so unique and so different, it's getting harder and harder for any individual to predict, okay, these are the keywords, these are the things I care about. Lean into automation and let AI, machine learning, whatever you want to call it now, help find the relevant queries that matter or the people that matter that will come to me. And the last would be not to forget that even though sometimes we look like a transactional business, if you're a hotelier and you have rates from 3 different OTAs and 7 different metas and yourself, and it's all $139 a night, there's still a space there to message brand value and to grow trust and loyalty. What is your value to consumers? What are you presenting to them? Is it flexibility? Is it cancellation policy? Whatever might happen, we're there for you. Whatever it might be, we've noticed successful companies moving towards getting back into that brand messaging. It doesn't have to be a straight up brand ad, but this idea of what is your perceived value? What are you bringing to customers? And how can I bring that to the forefront? So I'll stop there and let Florian go.
Thank you, Shawn. So again, my name is Florian. You probably can hear it from the accent or the name. So I'm from Germany, and my company is Hermann Global. I started my business 8 years ago for one purpose. I wanted to help destinations that are lesser known in the world to connect with the right audience and to connect with both domestic but also international travelers. And we know what the biggest challenge of small destinations is. It's always the budget. The budget is always hard to get, hard to defend. And so I always pledge to myself, we can make a difference if we apply technology. And I want to show you today a little bit about a specific topic where I think this year is another key year where we see 2 big trends happening in the digital marketing industry for travel. And the one is, I don't have a slide for this, but I just mentioned it. I don't know how many people follow what Apple is doing. Apple is always kind of doing things on the horizon. 15 years ago, the iPhone came out, and I hear soft rumors that Apple is going to bring out a headset. It's an AR and VR headset. So once that is in place, we will have a lot of discussion how we transform everything the way how we market. And the other trend is what I want to talk today about to you guys is artificial intelligence. So, and I wanted to talk more about how can we utilize the potential of artificial intelligence, what is it, and how can we apply it in our everyday lives. So artificial intelligence is a word that's nothing new. It already is being used in a lot of the background. I mean, Google is part of it, of course. So it is used a lot for personalization and customization, and whether that's search queries or whether that's booking engines. And the future of the booking is really driven by artificial intelligence to really understand what your needs are, and artificial intelligence will guide you there. The other use of artificial intelligence is the data and sentiment analysis. There's lots of researches on it, and as you know, a lot of platforms digitally, whether that's Facebook or other ones, they already utilize and aggregate intelligence to get you the right information, and it's just getting better. Forecasting and predicting is very important, where artificial intelligence helps a lot, especially when we talk about trends in the future. And we know that the human brain is usually good with making good assumptions and decisions based on experience, but I want to challenge this is at some point artificial intelligence will probably be smarter than we are to predict the future. So The other thing is where I think artificial intelligence still has to grow, but we will see how far that can go, is the idea generation and brainstorming. The brainstorming is really kind of where the creativity comes in, right? And how much can artificial intelligence to do that? And lastly, what I want to discuss in the few minutes today is how can we utilize artificial intelligence for content generation. So I show an example. When we look at the trends of where content marketing goes in the next years until 2027, we'll see another $584 billion being invested in content marketing. The content marketing growth is one of the fastest growing growth, the way how we communicate with customers. You probably know the saying, content is king, right? That's pretty old, but it's still relevant. But real-time content is King Kong. And that's kind of what I would say, is like bring the right content immediately at the right customer. And that's kind of where artificial intelligence can really make a big difference. So where can we apply artificial intelligence today when we create content? Think about you are in your DMO office, and what really kind of is the challenge every day is you need to create content, whether it's externally for your customers with social media posts or websites, or internally if you need to create reports. So artificial intelligence will be part of this in all our lives, in every little tool that's coming out. So blog posts, for example, is big. I show you an example of what artificial intelligence can do. Social media posts, the website copy, ad copy, newsletter copy, and what I'm most excited in from as an international traveler, the multilingual content. So there's a whole new world coming into this, that we communicate in all these different languages and can better communicate and understand each other with artificial intelligence. So I'll give you an example here. We are doing a lot of content. We do work with Azerbaijan. I picked a destination that's very far away. There are 2 articles here, or 2 posts, and I know it's very hard to read, so I can read only one of those to you, but I have these 2, and one was written by artificial intelligence, and one was written by a human, right? So I'm reading now one to you, just that you hear this. It says, have you ever been to Azerbaijan? This beautiful country is full of incredible things to see and do, from the stunning architecture in Baku to the breathtaking landscape in the Caucasus Mountains. Azerbaijan has something for everyone, for a unique cultural experience. Explore the vibrant markets and sample of the delicious local cuisines, and yada yada. So when I look at this, the one that was created by a human, it took us like 30 minutes to create that post. That's what I was just read, that was perfectly done, is in less than 30 seconds. So what that is a game changer, that all of a sudden we can create a lot more content in the future by using these tools. And right now these tools are free. They won't be free forever, but right now most of them are free. So the ones that I want you to look at is, and if you want to take a photo or you can Google it, you will find these. The one that you really want to take a look at is this OpenAI. That's the ChatGPT. You probably have heard the ChatGPT is a chatbot. It's nothing new. But that artificial intelligence-driven software is so good that it can create content almost perfectly. Other platforms are Jasper, Copy.a, and Brightsonic. But think about that this artificial intelligence content creation will be driven in all sorts of aspects around our daily lives, whether that's a Word doc, or whether that's Canva with design, or social media posts, or like YouTube with videos being created. It will be all integrated in this. So I show you an example. It's very small written, so I just explain how it works. So maybe you don't have to read it. But for example, I go to this software Jasper, right? And I just say, I would like to have an article about backpacking for beginners in the Cirque of the Towers in Wyoming. I live in Wyoming. I love the Wind River Mountains. I just chose this. And by the way, make this article, the tone should be witty and informative, make it SEO friendly, and it should be targeting the backpackers and backpacking trips, and write in English. You can write in any language, but let's do in English. So instantly it generates that content that has all these features that I just mentioned, written, flawless. And I read through it, it really is flawless. And it puts it together from a lot of sources that it's also looking almost authentic. I would say almost, I question it, but it's very, very good. The other thing is what, for example, where I said the multilingual content has huge potential with artificial intelligence. For example, I challenged this ChatGPT to say, can you write a social media post in German, because I'm a German, I said this, about the things to do and see near Lander, Wyoming, that would appeal specifically to potential visitors from Germany. Like total different market, total international, different language. So it wrote this post perfectly, drawing all these things, what a specific German traveler would be appealing for the destinations. For example, that talks about the Native American reservation. It talks about their waterfalls. The Germans like to hike. It all pulled it from the sources generally. So how can we apply this? For idea generation and brainstorming, we can even bring it to the next level. I think artificial intelligence also can help with marketing strategies and tactics. So think about not just creating articles, think about creating a marketing plan internally where that can help. I think the academic world as well as the teachers, well, the schools, they will be very, very challenged with this generation that's in school, how ChatGPT and these services kind of all of a sudden do the homework for the students. Big discussion right now about it. It can also be applied for the sustainable responsible tourism initiatives. I think that's where these softwares can be very well applied to say, hey, please write something or come up with a strategy for us how to attract the right visitor. We want to have the visitor that does this and this and that. And they come up not just with the piece of content, but with the whole strategy. And of course, their creativity, the creative project inspiration is really key on that as well. Think about videos. Think about how it pulls different articles, elements, creatives to really appeal to the right customer. So again, this is very small. I just, for example, did this example to say, can you draft our marketing plan for Lander, Wyoming? And I want to reach the German market, and please be specific with the platforms, how you would do it, and which publications you would choose. And it wrote in English exactly from 1 to 8 the marketing plan, how to reach that customer. So ChatGPT, I would urge you guys, check it out how it works. It's currently free. It won't be free for long, but it's a technology that will come in our everyday lives. So what are the opportunities for DMOs? Maybe some DMOs, or even me as a consultant, often we are kind of challenged to say, is this the end of us, of the consultant, since we have machines telling us what to do? And I think the destinations that will apply the technology, they will save a lot of time. And I think when we save more time, we can focus on these bigger challenges and opportunities. And I also think that the human interaction will never really go away. So the human thoughts, for example, ideas, their creativity, and humor is still valuable and cannot be replaced. And we also think that for the DMOs, from a DMO side, the world with having authority and a tone and a strategy, that's why we need the DMOs in place as well. So that's my quick update on this, and thank you so much, and I will hand it over to Paul.
Thank you, Florian. This is fun. I get to present on Google with Google instead of just about Google. All right, so I'm just going to go through, we got a nice update on the general travel environment from Shawn and some really good tactical information from Florian. I'm going to talk about some numbers, essentially some scoreboards we keep on digital marketing for DMOs specifically. In particular, being with Simpleview, we build websites for vacation destinations, among other things. So when it comes to digital marketing, I have a lot of views about how DMO websites work. That's somewhat limited, obviously. As Shawn mentioned, there are 25 to 100 touch points somebody might have before they pick a destination, and DMOs are certainly not all of those touch points. But we are generally, we're in many users' journeys, and I think we're very important in the awareness and intent phases where people are just sort of trying to, or consideration, sorry, awareness and consideration, where people are trying to figure out which destination to go to, what they might want to do while they're there. So looking at those numbers, I think can give us an idea about some things about the general trend of travel, the trend of where people can be found in digital marketing, and how we might want to respond. So, first of all, by the way, if we could keep the slides up and never go to the camera, that would be awesome for this. Yeah, so, because I'm going to be talking about these charts a lot. These numbers, a lot of them are available for free on simpleviewinc.com. If you search DMO Insights Hub or Simpleview Insights Hub, we should show up right there. But this one compiles web traffic from about 360 or so different DMO sites, specifically DMO sites. These ones all in North America, the US and Canada. It was interesting what Shawn said earlier about how maybe in 2022 we can finally start just doing regular growth and not benchmarking versus 2019. For DMO site traffic, that period happened about halfway through 2021. We were already well ahead of 2019 on our patterns. As we saw today, air travel only just came back. A lot of other indicators of actual real travel have only just now come back. But in terms of people researching travel online, in terms of us being able to reach them with digital marketing, that happened a while ago. I've already been telling all my clients, like, if you're still benchmarking versus 2019 with your web numbers, you're cheating. Please stop. Your stakeholders should yell at you. Honestly, if you look at, again, 2021 was already, again, above 2019, and then 2022 was by far the best year for all DMO sessions ever. That's the red line that you see on top there. Really high growth over even 2021. And then you can see the purple line, that's for 2023. We are already just like rocketing past that. So tons of traffic on DMO sites. People are looking at them. People are researching travel. People are planning things. We have a booking engine called Book Direct, where people can search for hotels, and we see that the booking window is definitely long here at this time of year. People are planning on travel in the summer when they're looking at DMO sites now. If we want to break it down, that was all sessions. If we look at paid search, that's a huge part of what's growing DMO traffic. Paid search is still overall a fairly small fraction of DMO traffic, but it's significant. It's usually maybe the second, third biggest single source. And you can see from the last bit of 2022 on until now, it's record-setting numbers for paid search on DMO sites. This kind of surprised me. We just last week had an internal Simpleview retreat, and our Google agency rep came down to talk to us because we work with a bunch of different clients. And her presentation is about how agencies can get clients to spend money so that Google makes more money with advertising. And the whole tone of hers is like, yeah, nobody's spending money, but maybe you could push them into some stuff. And I'm sitting there saying, like, it's in our industry, with DMOs specifically, it's great. They're spending money. I suspect at the end of 2022, there were maybe some people trying to burn some budgets up at the end there. But you can see they've still got the money this year, too. So it's not just that. So absolutely huge contribution from paid search. People are finding that more and more. What's interesting for me is the organic search numbers. So this is, you didn't pay. These numbers, if you will look at if you remember from the previous one, are much higher. Look at the scales on the left there, max of 300K here, max of 1 million here. So organic search is still almost half of DMO traffic, which is great. DMOs get a lot of organic search volume because they are highly authoritative in the real world, and that translates into the online world with references and links from colleges, city websites, things like that help you rank better in search. But you can see that whereas the overall sessions story was that, come on, keep going, yeah, the red line was way higher, 2022 was awesome. Organic search actually had a tough second half of 2022. You'll see that it was from about July 4th on, which is that big spike, organic search was down year over year, pretty much the entire second half of 2022. For me, that's a bummer. I used to be in SEO. My whole job was giving people reports on their organic search traffic, and anytime it was down, they're complaining. So that was not great, but you can see that right there at the very end, we recovered a little bit, and now so far in 2023, greatest numbers we've ever seen for this part of the year for organic search traffic. So people are definitely visiting DMO sites. But let's, first I want to show you, how that plays out in terms of the share. The blue line is the share of DMO traffic coming from organic search. You can see this starts at the beginning of 2020, right before the pandemic. And you can see that there was a spike resulting from the pandemic, mainly because everybody turned off their paid traffic. But ever since then, there's been a slow decline in the amount of DMO traffic that comes from organic search. Meanwhile, especially towards the end of last year, the yellow paid search line has really jumped up. And other sessions have been, mostly steady. But you can see here the mix is definitely overall shifting from organic to paid for DMOs, partially because of gains in paid and partially because of what I'll talk about here, which is the inherent volatility of organic search. So here's where I get to really complain about Google. So this is a cool data set that I really like. We work with several hundred DMO websites, and I have access to their Google Search Console data. So every day I have a script that goes and downloads all the keyword information I have on their impressions, their clicks, their rankings, all that from organic search. And then I mash all that data together, and I filter it for keywords that have, like a certain amount of volume and a certain amount of consistency of volume over days, and also get into the top 10 of the rankings at least once. I don't care about position 15 or whatever. And so then with this chart, which is confusing, so please pay attention, what I do is each day I calculate what the ranking was for that same keyword for that same site 2 weeks prior, all right? And then I take that difference. So if that ranking has gone down, which is good, we want to go down towards 1 with our rankings on Google, then let's say it's gone down from 2 to 1.5. I score that a negative 0.5 position change, which is good. And so then each day with all these 130,000 keywords, we track what that change is. And so green at the bottom means they gained rankings. The rankings went down towards 1. And the darker the green, the better, the more they went down. And then red is the opposite. That means they lost rankings, the ranking went up towards a higher number. And in the yellow, it's in the middle with the yellow, it's about the same. What's really interesting about this to me, this is looking back to March 11th, 2021. Thank you. Is how volatile it is. Look at the changes in the spikes of the green. So you can see, how many different keywords are going up and down by just how the green goes up and the red goes down and so forth. You can see there are periods where there are huge changes. In particular, if you look around August of last year, there's a big spike. That was right about when the helpful content update came out on Google. So ideally, that means that they liked DMO content with that. But some of the interesting things you see here is if you look, I wish I could stand by the screen and point at it. But if you look about 2/3 of the way through the chart, you see major red drops, up to 40% of keywords being down day by day throughout the summer of last year. And that's when I was showing you organic search traffic, let me just go back, was falling, and we were down versus the previous year. Since then, we've had quite a bit of growth and some better things happening. You can see a lot of green where numbers are going up after then, and that has allowed us to go from, again, losing a lot in the summer to almost breaking even and now then pulling ahead. And what's interesting about this is that if I take this same chart and I filter it for one of those 289 sites instead of all of them, the shape of this chart largely stays the same. Actually, I've just remembered, I've got a better view of just the last 6 months. So now you can see some of those trends I was talking about a little bit better. With the up and the down and how much things change and how volatile it is. Again, this is 116,000 keywords just in this 6-month view, over 287 sites, big changes. And if I filter on just one site, the shape is about the same. So these are affecting all DMO sites. These are definitely, whether, I'm sure it's not intentional, I'm sure Google does not have this is a DMO site flag when they're doing their rankings. But the natural result of the algorithm is that the kind of content we put on DMO sites tends to, throughout the ecosystem, go up and down. Obviously, there are idiosyncratic factors per site, but there are major industry-wide factors that are affecting all DMO traffic that makes it really important to benchmark your performance on the web. A lot of what might be happening to you might just be because of these industry-wide features that you can't really do anything about, and what you really want to know is how you're doing versus that. Another thing I can do is I can filter the list of keywords by topic. So here, I filtered the list for keywords that contain the word things, trying to get at things to do keywords, which are a huge source of traffic for DMOs. And I ended up with 2,700 keywords. You can see this is just the second half of last year. Again, huge swings. On some days, over 50% of the things to do keywords are losing rankings. Over half of the ones on DMOs. And on other days, they're going up a lot. So you see major volatility with that. Whereas if I look at events, it's much flatter, a lot more smoother, not these huge ups and downs. So certainly in terms of your keyword mix, what you pick, you're going to see different results on either one, and you're going to want to take that into account when you're planning your content strategy. More volatile things like things to do, maybe you get a lot of traffic and you can report that and it's great, but then you lose it because of a ranking change that you couldn't do anything about. It's just an algorithm thing. Events, much more steady. What we can see, just looking really quick, I'm almost out of time, Just looking at the engagement for, this is session duration, which is my preferred engagement metric, or at least of the simple ones. In terms of organic search, it's still the strongest type of traffic, so absolutely search traffic is getting people onto your site and having them do stuff. Paid search is a little lower, and you can see as people went for volume at the end of the year, they were going for a little bit less quality, and so engagement went down, but it's still strong. This is way better than you'll see from social, from display, from almost any other paid outbound source. And the other thing is, as people went for all this traffic, both cost per click went down and click-through rate went up, which are the two things we want them to do. So DMOs have not suffered in trying to get all this volume from paid search. It's definitely out there and available, and you don't even have to spend an arm and a leg to get it necessarily. Overall, my last conclusion is DMO site traffic is growing from a number of sources, particularly paid search is a strong way to do it. Paid and organic search are still strong, both in terms of volume. Organic, like I said, it's growing now, and I expect hopefully we'll have a better 23 than 22. And the engagement is really strong almost any way you look at it. But organic search is more volatile than paid. So if you have goals around sessions, around reach, you might want to consider adding paid to the mix just to add some ballast to your overall traffic numbers and keep them good. And then benchmarking is critical. One of the main things I've seen working with this, you see the overall trend in sessions. If your sessions are down, it might be the whole industry is down. You got to be able to communicate that to your stakeholders. As you can see, there are major ranking algorithmic factors that affect everybody that you can't really do anything about. So you're going to want to know all that as you're reporting and making a case for yourself. That was perfect. I ran out of slides right at the end there. Cool. Can I start us with a question? Because I have one.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. At the risk of getting Shawn sniped by Google Legal, what do you expect Google to do about what Florian was saying with using AI to generate content in the future?
We might have just announced something today.
Okay.
I'll have to go back and check. Pardon me?
Let me Google that.
Yeah, we did, right? Okay, good. See, I don't know what an internal email is versus external, and Paul's trying to get me fired. Yeah, so we did announce basically an AI version of our own, and it'll be in beta testing for trusted testers next week.
I was curious, particularly though, the search team and the algorithm they use for ranking content. Do you think?
So that's, I mean, again, I'm full disclaimer. This is Shawn Johnson, not Google, and these are my own personal opinions and not the corporate. But we've had AI as a part of what we were using in ads for years. I think we've called it different things. We've called it automation. We've called it machine learning. But AI is a big part of for example, we have a product called Performance Max. We're like, give us your video and display pieces, and we'll generate content ads for you. We'll generate videos, we'll generate display, and we'll decide whether it should be a search ad, video ad, whatever it might be. We'll insert it into the right spot. So I think Google's already been leveraging our own technology. I don't think we'll be using OpenAI or ChatGPT to do that, but I think that's going to become more and more important. And I like what, Florian, you mentioned. I think a lot of, when we talk to agencies or DMOs, or whatever it might be, about is this a risk to actually it frees up the worst of the busy work. Yeah. And it allows time for actually the proper application and strategy rather than spending time writing that copy. There's always going to be a place for guardrails and strategy, and maybe in a human element. This just eliminates some of those other pieces. Why do you want to write 100 different lines of search copy? Why not let a computer generate what that right copy is to reach Florian right now? You decide how to budget, where to strategy, where those consumers might be, and then let them go find them.
That was my first reaction to ChatGPT.
Yeah. So we have a I'm sure we'll work on that marketing issue at Google. So yeah.
And I'd like to get a little bit more insights from all three of you on just those pieces about ChatGPT and all these other technologies that are out there and quickly evolving. I know when I was a kid taking math classes, right, there was no calculators. You can't use your calculator, right? Like, why not? I can have the answer right now. I know 8 times 8 is 75. It's not 75, I know. That's not it's, right? But so the idea was, though, you needed to learn what was going on first before you can use the technology. Are we in a world right now of an opportunity to repeat this again, right? This ChatGPT or Google as the technology that we need to understand what's behind it, right? So Florian, you asked, is this the end of us, right? Or do we have the opportunity to learn and understand this, but then also the challenge of getting potentially lazy and saying, ChatGPT, write me a song about doing visitor surveys in national parks. Here's your survey, or here's your song. What are the challenges and the opportunity moving forward to make sure that we're pulling out the correct information to have those stakeholder communications going forward with good information?
Yeah, so what I said earlier is, I think where AI has its place is very much on the search and very much, I believe, on the booking side. I mean, the AI is really kind of personalized, finding exactly your package, finding what you want, quickly, seamless. And we already technically have the technology, it's just not as perfected as it is now. And what I said earlier, I think where the DMO has its role, besides of creating content, 70–80% of our job and for us working with clients is creating content. And if we kind of minimize it down and then we can focus on other things, the thing is what I don't think AI can replace is your brand. It will never replace your brand, and also it cannot replace your authenticity. So focus on these things, right? And then, I believe that we are entering, it's been going on for a while with the technologies. We talked 5–10 years ago about Google Translate, and for example, how Google can translate your website. And frankly, it was great, but it wasn't perfect. Like the content was, yes, you can read the translation, but it's not really where you say, wow, this is kind of what I enjoy reading. So, not to hit on Google, but it's like, it was not perfect. But now we are seeing this technology coming in where it's very professional and seamless. And I think that we are at this tipping point where we can apply this technology to do bigger and better things. From an information point of view, what I said earlier is going down the funnel on the booking side, AI can do tremendous good, but when it comes to inspiration and ideas and creativity, I think the human connection is still the most important aspect of that.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think people, as we find ourselves reading this AI content over and over and over again, which is going to happen to all of us, people will probably get a little bit of a distaste for it and want to have that authenticity and personal connection added back in, which you can use AI to do that. It can be your first draft, and then you can apply your own self to it from there.
Yeah, I think I heard recently a business school professor, it's like being asked on an NPR interview, I think, about his thoughts on ChatGPT or other AI forms in the classroom. It's like, actually, I'm requiring my students to use it. There's no longer an excuse to have poor writing or poor researching. The opportunity is there. And there's data everywhere coming out of Google and everywhere else that's out there. So what are the opportunities to have that first draft, then go back in and really engage your brain, your authenticity, your experience, to then promote and move those pieces forward. I think we're getting pretty close on time, so I want to make sure there's chances for other questions out there.
No, I'm carrying.
Cannot see a thing.
You didn't stand up or scream.
Oh, sorry, I didn't stand up or scream. Lori from Daytona Beach. So as a writer by trade, it just kind of hurts my heart, but I'm also excited about it. So how does AI know what the authentic, true sources are for data? Because when I research anything, I get 8 or 10 oddball, that's not even true kind of things. How is the artificial intelligence knowing the true answers?
I mean, a lot of times it will be wrong. You can't totally trust it. You should probably verify anything factual and important that's going in there. But it's pretty smart. Humans also make mistakes, so it's a problem we face with human copywriting too. I think I've certainly seen some cases where I was researching something and it gave not quite a right answer. It'll probably get better over time, but it's not going to be something where you're going to want to, if high accuracy is super important, I wouldn't recommend just publishing it without checking.
I do think that's a really good question and point, though, because I think maybe it was who brought it up, was either you or Florian, but this idea of users will be looking for reliable content, And I think as this propagates, and some of it will be great and some of it will be terrible, and I'm sure there'll be a paid version, and a lot of copycat folks will come in. So I do think there's a place for your brand and the trust that people have with your brand. That's where I'm going to go for authoritative content, and that I don't necessarily, so I think there's going to be this adjustment period of not quite recognizing what's real, what's not real, what to trust. And so people will rely and go back to the brands that they know and trust to get authoritative information about a destination, what have you.
This question is about Performance Max specifically. I'm a big believer in the power of AI and how it can place ads in ways that like maybe you wouldn't anticipate them being successful, but they seem to be. But I'm wondering if there's any way that any kind of thing on the roadmap where Performance Max might give us some feedback on what creative is resonating or getting the most clicks or getting the lowest cost per click, getting the most click-through rate. So right now it's all so automated that it would make it hard to feed those results back into something like GPT, right?
Yep. I mean, I don't know the answer to that question other than based on 11 years of Google, as we move through new products, like ultimately that has to happen. Anything that starts as an alpha, then a beta, then comes out, like ultimately the data and the specificity and the controls follow. Like as someone who works with a team that sells Performance Max, I can't imagine that not being the case. Because otherwise, we have to move in that direction. So my guess is yes, but no promises in the short term. But I would assume that I see, we talk about product roadmaps, we hear from these Google product leads, like that's absolutely, because the more transparency to what's working, to your point, that helps us sell more Google, because we can prove it was working and what was working, and you can go back and say, okay, I'm going to double down on these particular efforts. So yes, but I don't have any inside information to share today.
Yeah, I just think what Shawn is saying, for example, with advertising or programmatic advertising, or I think the AI has a huge role in this to really find always and optimize the messaging and find the right audience. And I think that really plays well, but what also was said earlier said it hurts my soul that I write content. I think, again, like when we talk about the top of the funnel, which I think most of the destination marketers, we need to bring ideas to the right customer in an authentic way. And I think currently, and maybe the changes in the future, but I think the human being still can identify what's authentic. Maybe that's changing, but we still see like when you say, I have visited this place and I'm the real person and I've tasted this restaurant. And if you just are yourself and creating that content, it will always gain a lot of momentum. And think about using AI not just by replacing your writing, but optimizing your writing. Like AI can draft something really good and you can still make it personal and authentic that way.
Any other questions? I do think, I think getting back to that statement Paul made earlier too about this, it's a first draft, right? And it really does take that ground truthing piece that's there. And it's not just with AI, it's any of the data sources that are out there. I've seen presentations on mobility-based data, and one of the top points of interest in my town that popped up was the Cracker Barrel as the top area of interest for my town. Like, that doesn't make any sense at all. Like, oh wait, it's by the freeway. It was clipping the freeway traffic going through. But it takes someone that's on the ground to know that. It takes a writer to know if there's authenticity to what's out there. It takes someone that's German and living in Wyoming to know, does what's coming out of this make sense? I had to go and translate what you had put in your slide and see, like, what does this actually say on there? And like, oh, given what some Eastern Montana marketing looks like towards that German population, like, that's what I would have expected it to say. So it's a cool opportunity to fast track things and then have that next piece. So we don't want to hold you up from getting your break and on to the evening activities. So thank you all very much. Thank you to these three gentlemen for their insights and knowledge.
Jeremy. Oh, thanks very much. Just want to thank Jeremy for moderating this session, and once again to thank our three speakers. I think it was a great end to a busy day, And certainly the interactive nature of the discussion was very much appreciated by ourselves in the audience. So thank you to all four of you once again, and thanks to Ardara for sponsoring the session. So tomorrow, just to remind everybody, those of you who are looking for a calm start to the day, there will be yoga in the sunrise, there'll be sunrise yoga in the Travis room, which is quite close, just by here. And that will start at 6:30 in the morning. And I understand that the first 50 to attend will receive a special sunrise yoga pin. So there's an incentive for you. Also, as Jeremy has said, the buses are going to start loading at 5:30 to take us to Pinstripes, which is where we are having our evening open evening reception, sponsored by Houston First. So please be there on time. It's 5:30, so it's a quick turnaround for us. And then finally, after the evening reception, the first timers or the emerging leaders get together will take place back here. And it's in the hotel, and it's in the San Antonio room. So any of you who are within the Emerging Leaders group, the San Antonio room, when we get back to the hotel, and there will be a reception and drinks and some networking. So I hope you had a great opening day. See you at Pinstripes, and enjoy the rest of the evening. Thank you. Thanks a million.